Hi everyone, I'm Kaius. Have you ever been minding your own business, playing a videos game, surfing the internet, or using your phone only to get one of these, or one of these? I'm not gonna insult your intelligence and explain what an error screen or error sound is, because we've all experienced them. On the internet, on your DVD player, hell dude, even my fridge has one! Can you fucking grow up? For some reason, people are terrified of these things, and by for some reason, I mean it's actually kind of reasonable. We as humans are naturally frustrated by things that are beyond our control, and sometimes that frustration can lead to anxiety or fear. Not for me though. I take serotonin. More rather, people are scared of the idea that something is wrong, especially when that wrong something is actually difficult to place. Basically, when you see something like critical process died, how are you able to even parse what that means? Well, now QR codes appear on blue screens, so there's that, I guess. I feel like Windows 10 and 11 are on a mission to just demystify this entire thing, and that's making it really hard for me to make this thing sound scary. So, just look at this while I figure out how to segue to the next section. The most notable form of an error screen is the kind you'd see in a video game. An older video game, to be exact. There's a lot of ways for a video game to declare, oh, shit's fucked. And game devs know this, which is why they either have failsafes in place, such as in doors, or more commonly, an error screen designed for when the game ends up realizing that something's wrong. It's probably this degree of self-awareness that causes these games and programs to pass over into the uncanny valley. But I feel like if I talk like that over and over, I'm just going to regurgitate last year's Halloween video, so instead, I'm just going to talk about the kinds of screens individually. So let's start with something simple, and work our way up. Before we continue, videos like this one are made possible thanks to my supporters for Twitch and Patreon via the Kaius Klub R program. Thank you to my patrons, Penrost and Phenomenal. The rest of this month's supporters are on screen now. You can join Kaius Klub R for Twitch for exclusive emotes, or for Patreon for verbal shoutouts, with access to a special hidden channel in my Discord server to all people who join Kaius Klub R, no matter what platform they show their support for. So given the subject matter is so nebulous, this B-roll is going to be mostly unrelated, so don't worry about paying too much visual attention. In fact, I'll even play some relaxing music so you have some lo-fi case to chill / relax / study to. Back in Back in the day, there were several types of a single console, and for some reason some discs or cartridges worked on some of them, but not on others. It was kind of like when a gaming PC doesn't have the right parts, except like, instead of parts it was the entire peripheral or system? When I make it sound like that, I really don't give it the gravity it deserves. In any case, there's a bunch of these, especially for the Game Boy Color. I'll highlight a few of my favourites, but in the description there will be a link to a site that just has piles and piles of this. Of course, some GBC games circumvented this by simply being playable on the Game Boy itself. I know! Backwards compatibility! It's crazy! Of all the games, I can recall Mortal Kombat 4 possibly being such a game, and why you would want to play that thing on either Game Boy is frankly beyond me. Of course, the GB isn't the only system with this. Some of them even have it built into the BIOS or firmware itself. A pretty notable example of this is the PlayStation, which was known for its red screen of death. Something you'll also notice throughout this piece is that people love to throw the of death suffix around. The blue screen of death, the red screen of death, the red ring of death, hell, here's a green screen of death. I am so fucking funny. I am so fucking funny. Anyway, this bad boy would show up when inserting an unknown disc into a PlayStation 1 or PlayStation 2, since that also had this error, except it had extremely discordant audio that scared people, and I don't mean the normal kind of scared people. People were actually seeing the fucking horrors over this. Like, there was some Lovecraftian bullshit going on in these comment sections. You're greeted by an angry red hellscape, a musical decrescendo that sounds as if your very life force is being sapped away, and the sound of a cold wind seeping across a barren wasteland of precious little to obstruct it is some of the most powerful prose I've ever read on this site, and it's in the comments of a fucking red screen of death video. Like, dude, relax. I mean, write a novel first, I guess, but chill out. The red screen of death also returns to the PSP and PlayStation 3, albeit for different reasons. If you see these screens, maybe you are in fact having your life force sapped away, because that product you spent hundreds of dollars on is now basically a very shiny and cutting edge paperweight. Definitely a lot worse than the Gates of Hell, but I digress. Similar disc read errors exist on other systems, like the Xbox 360, which just plays this animation when the disc is inserted into a DVD player. Neat. Speaking of inserting discs into places they don't belong, I already talked about this in last year's vid, but I'll get comments about it if I don't mention it, so the Sega CD disc error audio, why the fuck does it sound like that? I already talked about this in last year's video. It's to give a sense of urgency, you know, like you hear it and you're like, uh-oh. This is ad-lib, this part's ad-lib, can you tell? Can you tell how fucking ad-lib that is? Another error I mentioned in a previous video was the illegal instruction error that was ever present in last week's video. It's hard to find actual details on this one nowadays, because there's a Sonic.exe Friday Night Funkin' mod named Illegal Instruction, because goddamn of course there is, why the fuck wouldn't there be? Illegal instructions are, for lack of a better term, crashes. They're usually left for debugging purposes, but they still halt the game or program unless you know exactly what you're doing. They're way more noticeable in older games, but more modern games do have them. Sonic Frontiers has them. Is this a creepypasta? Many of the older games will just jump straight to the screen that no non-programmer will understand, but some will have other ideas. One such example that's been living rent-free in my head over this past week is this video of someone swapping save state from Robocop vs Terminator to Cita Valise and causing a write error that plays the possible worst noise I've ever heard in my life. That's mildly disconcerting. Weird error, man. Weird error indeed. You might have noticed that I've censored the fax number here. Apparently that's still active, so there's that. Generally speaking, loading a bad save state from an emulator is a pretty easy way to replicate an error handler on these old systems in a relatively safe environment. So go ahead, but your mileage may vary and I'm not responsible for any toaster explosions that occur as a result of my verified untech-savvy advice. Error handlers don't just come in the form of screens that say, well fuck, though. In fact, some game developers have pretty unique ways of implementing error handlers in ways that make the game not crash, and ways that essentially remove accountability from the player for doing something weird that caused the game to shit the bed. Sonic 3D Blast is one such example. I am always talking about Sonic on these videos. I always be on that hedgehog grind. The error handler in Sonic 3D Blast for the Sega Mega Drive isn't just a traditional error message. Instead, the game congratulates you for finding the secret level screen. This screen, as well as a few others from previous Traveler's Tales games, were disguised this way in order to make Sega a little more lenient with their certification process by making it look like they hadn't found an error screen, but instead a secret. It also made troubleshooting during development way easier because the programmers didn't have to restart the entire game upon seeing the crash handler. They could just take the internal info and continue testing shit out. In 3D Blast's case though, this caused people to spend decades interpreting this as a secret that could be accessed by punching the cartridge. people were assaulting their fucking Sega Genesai just to skip to Spring Stadium, and that's not okay. Did they not know about Barracuda? Well, to save a system or cartridge, I'll tell you Barracuda now, but only once and really fast. Be ready to see your dinner, and if you didn't catch that, please rewind, please. This isn't an algorithm trap, I promise, pinky swear. Another notable example is the Chris Houlihan room, which was also actually an error handler in of itself. When the game doesn't find a proper place to take link to, it uses this as an error handler. The name was from a Nintendo Power event, but obviously this part of the Easter egg only really applies to the English version of the game. The other languages just use the message, "This is my secret room, keep it between us, okay?" Well, considering it's one of the most notable error handlers of all time, it's not really a secret, huh? Anyway, I think that's all the stuff I have to talk about for error handlers. I wanted to move on to the next thing I want to talk about here, which is... yeah, we're doing this again. Only because I have so much shit to say, okay? Hi, Editor Kaius here. I wanted to talk about this section kinda off script for a second, because I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not even sure in retrospect that I agree with my takes in this section of the video, to the point where I genuinely considered not uploading the video at all. It's less about the opinions themselves and more about my delivery of them. Okay, I definitely ham up on the mic. I'm supposed to sound engaged in the topic and to entertain and all that, but I don't know, it's like real venom sometimes over a topic that in my opinion didn't really deserve the treatment I gave it. After talking with some friends and reflecting on it while I was sick this last week, I decided I'd leave the section in the video unedited from this point onward, because at the end of the day, my goal for a lot of these videos is to start discussion, and if even I'm looking at this vid in the editing phase and getting all pensive and shit, maybe I've done something right, or maybe I'm just coping and the entire second half of this video sucks ass. Either way, I hope you enjoy the rest of it. Bye. First, let's highlight some anti-piracy screens I like. I talked about the fact anti-piracy in last year's video, but I don't know if I touched on piracy as a crime. It's pretty iconic. I don't know what more I can say about it. It's just good. It speaks for itself. The visuals are striking. It's iconic. Now, other anti-piracy screens, and I mean the fake ones, anti-piracy screens are a dying art, and I finally get to vent about this. The blueprints are obvious. Mario Party DS and Mario 64 Beta Archive. Mario Party DS is the one I want to focus on more, because I think this is the one that people try and fail to emulate the success of. Rather than zero in on the actually chilling aspects, like the degree of self-awareness given by a game or the idea that something has gone terribly wrong, no, they focus on analog horror and jump scares and swapping the piracy is no party phrase specifically into literally fucking anything. Piracy is no Nintendo, piracy is no Speed. Oh, sure, whatever you say, man. A lot of these also like to imply that the game is alive, which is maybe taking the self-awareness too far, especially in cases where the game ends up extracting information from the POV that it really shouldn't have. The anti-piracy self-reporter featured in some of these kind of falls into this, but I feel that that's the right amount of absurd. I don't know, maybe I'm just senile and a fun hater, but I feel like gameplay modifications or just saying the product won't operate on hardware not made for it, or just a typical SRAM error, is enough. Even so, using all of this information, I have made my own anti-piracy video in my head right now for a game that doesn't exist, so I think you should check it out. It says, "Piracy is no toilet. It is a serious crime to copy video games according to copyright law. Please report this stolen copy of P-Simulator 1994 immediately! For more information, please check your instruction booklet or go to ap.nintendo.com. And you know what I should say on the screen instead of turning off the software? The game hits you with the triple dog death barrage! And then a spirit comes out of the game cartridge and gives you testicular torsion. I don't know, man, it's a hard feeling to describe, but interesting horror can't really be fabricated in this way. I get that I'm also not good at horror stuff myself, but that doesn't mean I can't or won't criticize horror pieces. Also, the thing with horror is that it's kinda subjective in the first place. People are bound to have different takes on that stuff, and maybe they like red threatening text and random jump scares, though I feel like fake anti-piracy measures aren't really the kind of place or theme for that. You know, I kinda thought I had something of value to say regarding the anti-piracy screens fad, but I really don't. It's been said before, the creepy error screen is a dying art. You know it, I know it, someone else probably knows it. We're supposed to do Rules of Freeze, right? And I kind of find the topic exhausting to talk about these days, so you can expect me to come back in like 4 weeks' time with something new to say on the topic. Yay. Okay, this isn't even in the script anymore. For some reason I ended the script on a really bad note, and I want to just ad-lib like an entire segment here. So what I will say is, like, if you like those anti-piracy screens, that's totally fine. You're cool, that's fine. Everyone has their own thing that they enjoy, and that's epically awesome. But I also think that it's fair to criticize these things because, I mean, art is made to be criticized. Well, it's not made to be criticized, but like, if there were no criticism, art can not naturally evolve, and even if it's something as silly as like some little Timmy's like fake anti-piracy screen for like toddler TV, like that's still valid to criticize because that's how you improve at art. Anyway, I wanted to end the video on a lighter note, so I'm just going to babble about stuff that I found funny or cool, or like just other positives. I don't think I talked about anti-piracy measures enough in a positive context to really justify my section on it, so I'm going to go here and talk about some that I like. Off the top of my head, I'm literally spitballing right now. Fatal Fury 2 for the Neo Geo. If the game detects the anti-piracy check has failed, the second match, player 2 will have no hurt boxes, and in any subsequent matches, the clock will start at 2 seconds instead of 99. This is cool. This is decent. This is the kind of anti-piracy measure that's cool. I like ones that modify the gameplay, you know? It's like, there's a reason why the Earthbound one and the Spyro one are so well known. A lot of Sega and Capcom arcade games also had, like, chips that blow themselves up, basically, that literally will kill themselves, and Sonic is coming back into the discussion. I know. Sega Sonic the Hedgehog was one such game. Whenever these batteries are like detected to not be there anymore, the game will stop functioning normally. It's like weird copy protection that is stupid and bad, and some PCBs probably still have it at arcades, so keep an eye out for whenever the game just decides to stop working normally. Other games that have this from memory, I think Golden Axe's arcade version, Revenge of Death Adder, I think that had it. I think some of the Capcom fighting games had it. I want to say like Darkstalkers might have had it. Okay, no update. Darkstalkers does not have it. I'm fucking stupid. But there is an anti-piracy for Super Street Fighter 2, the new challengers. It's literally basically just the same as Fatal Furies, except the match doesn't start at all. So that's cool. Also, I want to do a full piece of this at some point, but there are some anti-piracy and error screen messages on the Scary Logos Wiki. I don't know if you've heard of the Scary Logos Wiki, but it is one of the most unhinged sites I have seen in my entire life. On one of the anti-piracy screens messages, reads here like, this page contains a logo which has a jump scare, so if you don't like logos like these, or are prone to heart attacks, please do not watch the logo. Dude, thank fucking god. I have heart attacks all the goddamn time. I could really use a warning like this and everything ever. Literally, I'm putting one in the pinned comment of the video. If you're prone to heart attacks, well, I guess it's too late because you're like at the end of the video, but hindsight's a bitch. Also, this logo has really loud sounds, music, or dialogue. This also goes to people prone to tinnitus or ear bleeding. Viewer discretion is advised. Do you ever have a friend who tags someone who's always bleeding out the ear. Lastly, for the Freaky Logo Wiki, I may actually do next week's video on the Freaky Logo Wiki because this is the most insane site I've seen in my life and I need something lighthearted to kind of balance out the... I don't know, I don't like the tone of this video very much, but I still feel like I want to say what I said. So let's talk about Nintendo Switch error screen is a primary error screen that has error codes. Screen, TBA. Music/sounds, none. Scare factor, they have a scare factor by the way, low, especially if you don't like error screens. Which, I mean, yeah, any error screen is scary if you're scared of error screens, that's just kind of how it goes. It's just like, if you were on like a Fears wiki and it was like, oh, here's like carpet phobia, this will actually be low on the fear factor, but it will be very high if you have a debilitating fear of carpets. The Freaky Logos wiki also had a whole thing of the categories in it. I mean, if I do a video on this next week, you'll know, but I'm not 100% sure. Actually, you know what? Yes, I am. I'm doing it now. I'm doing it. I will literally have this video ready for next week. You can literally bet on it. If I don't do it, I will... In my next video, I'll cry instead. I'll cry for 10 minutes. That'll be the video. Me crying. It will literally be called that. Me crying, line, case. Editor Case here. The fuck I will. What are you talking about? What is Blood waffling about?
You're watching Channel 2 KWAK TV.